Okay, in the previous video, I demonstrated how to use the hollow and split tools, which are part of 3D Builder. 3D Builder is another free-to-use application that comes with Windows 10. If your computer does not have it, you should be able to download it for free from the Windows App Store. So let's start with 3D Builder. We'll go to New Scene. And in the previous video, I'd mentioned that one of the projects you could use these tools for is, say, you're making a gift box. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to click on Cube. What we're going to do is we hollow out the cube, we splice it, split it horizontally. That way you have the top for the cover. And then what we're going to do, we then split it vertically, and that's going to be the ribbon that wraps around the box. So let's go ahead and go to Edit, and we go to Hollow. And it's not really easy to see, but there is a thin border that's translucent, and then a darker bluish center, which is what's being hollowed out. We have a slider up here, so you can change the thickness if you want. If it's a gift box, you wouldn't expect it to be really thick, but if it's like a crate or something, then yes, you would expect it to be thicker. And then we just click on Hollow. Now you can't see anything because it's the inside that was hollowed out, but you will very shortly. So the second tool is Split. And what happens is you see this plane appear. You can move this plane up and down, or you can rotate it. And that way you could split something horizontally, vertically, diagonally, whatever you want. Now right now this is set to keep top. That's why the bottom disappeared. We want to keep both. So now you can see the top and the bottom. Let's grab that plane, slide it up, because you'd expect the top of the box to be smaller than the bottom. Not to mention the top is probably going to slide down past. Since it's not going to sit directly on top, it's probably going to slide down like you'd expect a box would. So it's going to cover up part of the bottom anyways. Unlike Paint 3D, in 3D Builder, to pivot around an object, it's left-click, hold, and move the mouse, whereas in Paint 3D, it's right-click, hold, and move the mouse. Why they can't keep this consistent between applications, I don't know. So what we're going to do is we go ahead and click on Split. Now, here's a little problem. If we were to export this and then import it into Paint 3D, even though these are now two separate objects, it'd be treated as one. So what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to make a couple copies. That way Paint 3D will treat each one separately. Right now we have the sticky select, which is basically multi-select. In a lot of applications, if you want to select multiple objects, you hold Shift and click. In this, they simplified it. They just have it be a sticky select. So if there were like 5 more objects, I would just keep clicking and they would all select. I wouldn't have to hold Shift. So that's a nice little feature. So we have hollowed the box. We've spliced the box. Now what we're going to need to do, we're really going to need to make this to be, we need the box top to be larger, we said. So here's what we're going to do. We click on Object and we copy. And then we paste. And so now we have 2. Well, we don't need 2 complete boxes. So click right here to do the regular select. One of them we're going to keep the bottom. One of them we're going to keep the top. So we get rid of the top from this one. We click on this one, and then we're going to scale this. So what we do, we go back to, actually we use the toolbar at the bottom, sorry. And this one is scale. You can see the little arrows pointing out. And just grab a corner, and it scales in all directions, all 3 axes. Left-click hold to rotate, so you can see that it did indeed scale in every direction. Be careful, Paint 3D doesn't necessarily scale in all directions, depending on what view you're using. So again, we'll click on deselect all. We'll click on just the bottom one. We'll delete the bottom. So now we have a bottom and we have a top. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take the top, we copy, we paste, we slide that over, and we're going to splice this. So we go to Edit, we go to Split. And in this case, it's still splitting horizontally. In this case, we want to split vertically. So what we need to do is we grab that control, you can see the little arrows, and we split it. Now, if you want to slide that over, like you can, again, left click and pivot, and now you can see the plane. You can just slide that over. In this case, it's symmetrical. The object is symmetrical, so it really doesn't matter where you split it. And we want to keep, it still says top and bottom, but we'll keep top and split. And split again. Same thing, rotate. Kind of snaps into place at 90 degrees. We'll slide that over, and now we'll reverse. We'll do keep bottom. Oh, actually, that was way too much. There we go. And so the idea is this is meant to look like a ribbon wrapping around the top of the box. We will probably need to scale this slightly because since it's exactly the same size as a box, you don't want that. You want it to be slightly wider, slightly taller. So we can do that scaling in Paint 3D. All right, so we'll do split. So now we have the box bottom, the box top, the ribbon for the top, and now we need the ribbon for the bottom. So what we'll do, click on the box bottom, copy, paste, slide that over, left click, just seeing if these are all lined up. And since you have the checkerboard pattern at the bottom, you can see it is lined up. Not that it really matters. It's just that if for some reason you need to look at each one comparatively, it helps. Okay, so let's now go back to Edit, Split, again rotate vertically. And again, it doesn't matter which side we keep, so we'll do split. Again, split. Rotate it 90 degrees. Grab the plane to slide it over. Now switch which side you want to keep. And that's probably a little bit too wide. Now the only problem with doing what we did is it might be hard to get the ribbon to match exactly the same width, but again, you can always scale that in Paint 3D. There you go. So you have a box bottom, box top, ribbon bottom. We can apply some color in Paint 3D, and then we'll be finished with this particular project. So we just need to save it now. We'll call this gift box. We'll call this the parts since it's not the final gift box. And then we need to go over to Paint 3D. Go ahead and click on New. Go up to the menu. We'll go to Insert. And sure enough, there's gift box parts. Gives you a nice little preview. And as you can see, these are 4 separate objects that if we hadn't done it this way, it'd all been considered one object. So let's go to 3D view. And you can either center this on the canvas like we normally do, or you can leave it like this. Really doesn't matter in this particular case because since they're all, I believe they're all flush up against the canvas. Actually, they're not. They're all lined up together, but they're not flush. So let's go ahead and select everything. Here, right-click to pivot. Hold down the mouse wheel to slide over. And again, you wait for the dots to turn gray. That tells you that it is centered in that axis. Let's also go ahead and make everything bigger. So just select everything. And this is what I was talking about, not necessarily scaling in all directions, because if you scale it this way, I believe it only scales 2 directions. You still have to scale it out in the other direction. So we'll do that. Right click to pivot. And then we'll recenter this. Actually, everything still looks square, so it might have scaled. Not 100% certain. Sorry about that. I usually know, and this time I'm not certain because this time it looks like it did scale it in all directions. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the ribbon. So we're going to click on it, whatever you want. You could do pink, you could do blue, whatever. So let's make it like a pink ribbon. Click on that one. Also pink. Let's make the box. What do you think? Trouble with this color of blue is sometimes the controls, like the line that surrounds it, is just about that shade of blue. Okay, so now we start to assemble. Right click to pivot. Left click to hold this. And oops. And then we'll just slide this. Slid it vertically. Sorry about that. Okay. And again, this is where the benefit of centering on the canvas, you know that it is centered that way. Just rotate around, holding the right mouse button. Okay, that looks good. Now, I'm going to click on the ribbon. We're going to slide this over, but as we said, it's the same size as the box, so we need it to be scaled out. See now, this time, this way it's only scaling in one direction. I think it's because if you grab the corner, it scales in all directions. This one, it only scaled it in one direction. Looks pretty good. Maybe you could make the ribbon a tiny bit smaller. Good enough. And again, this, depending what you're trying to do, it's not really meant to be your final graphic. It's more of it's meant to be more placeholder graphics, or maybe again, if you're doing an indie game where the graphics are more retro. If you want, you can just take this and copy, paste. You saw the little blurb, so you know that it did indeed paste, and just rotating this. So now you have a ribbon in both directions. And you could independently shrink this one if you wanted. This did look like it was a little bit big. Now we'll take this one. Again, it's going to be the same issue, where it's a little bit too small because it's exactly the same size of the box and you really want it to be slightly bigger. This is what I was saying about getting the scaling right as far as width, so you can just shrink it here. Okay. Looks like a little bit vertically too much. There, that looks passable. And again, that slide, that's just holding down the scroll wheel. Copy, paste, you see the little pulse, rotate it, snaps in at 90 degrees, and there you go, you have a little gift box. But we're going to add a little something to it because the bulk of what was done in Paint. Was done as far as making the objects in 3D Builder. We're going to add something from Paint 3D other than just the scaling and rotation and assembling. We're also going to draw the bow at the top. So let's look at how you would do that. So for the ribbon, we're going to click on 3D Shapes, and we're going to draw it. We're going to use the sharp edge because we want it to be like a thin ribbon. We don't want it to be we don't want it to be roundish or puffy. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw an outline of it. So both the inside and the outside, that way it's hollow. So just kind of click, click, click. So it's going to be a little angular. Now we draw the inside. Try to make it thin. All right. We'll also edit that, make that pink. Right-click to pivot. Hold down the the scroll wheel, excuse me. We'll shrink this in. Put it right there at the top. This could have pinched closer together, but shouldn't be too much of an issue. Try to make it the same approximate width. Let's rotate this a little bit more. Now in this case, the ribbon's not quite right because it's protruding into it's protruding into the cover, so it would actually show on the flip side. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, and then flip horizontally. And there you go. Now you have a nice little gift box, and it's one that can be opened because the top and the bottom are separate. Whoops, sorry about that. I didn't mean to scale. So copy, paste, flip. There we go. What I noticed was I could see it looks like there's a little bit of a gap there. So somehow I didn't quite get this one right. I'm thinking that this is the one that just got rotated. I copied, rotated, and didn't really look at it enough. There we go. So there you go. Now you have a nice little gift box. It can be opened. And that's about it. So let's now just put that into Unity and we'll be done. So we export 3D FBX, and this will be called gift box, but then we'll add the date since it's the final object and not just the components. So gift box 0422. And when you start drawing all these little points, when you're making these curves, this quickly increases the size of the file. So if you're using a lot of points, a lot of curves, the size of this, the amount of memory this file will take up increases dramatically. Let me just go to Unity, go to our 3D folder. There it is, gift box. Now the only thing, and I've mentioned this in the other videos, the colors probably won't transfer. So you'll need to apply the colors again in Unity. You just create a material. Yeah, see how the colors didn't transfer? So we'll put this into the environment. And as we've said before, it's too small. So scale this out by whatever the proper amount would need to be. And there we go. And now you can just scale this object itself. And as I mentioned before, you can just create material, ribbon mat for albedo, make it like a pink color. You can just apply that to your ribbon, and so on and so forth. Then you can do the same thing with whatever color you want the box to be. Okay, so that should about do it. I hope you found this helpful, and see you in the next video.